The death of the old Chigiri, the sprint against Team W, is often remembered as a triumphant sports moment. Psychologically, it is much darker than that. What viewers witness is the symbolic death of an identity. The old Chigiri is built upon fear, fear of injury, fear of loss, fear of disappointment, fear of mortality, fear of becoming ordinary. For months, this fear dictates every decision. It determines how he plays, how he thinks, how he sees himself. Then comes the moment, the opening, the opportunity, the choice, run or don't. The significance of this decision cannot be overstated because Chigiri understands the consequences. This is not ignorance. This is not recklessness. This is not impulsiveness. He knows exactly what he is risking, and he runs anyway. That decision represents a complete psychological revolution. The old Chigiri asks, "What if I lose everything?" The new Chigiri asks, "What if I never truly live?" The focus shifts from preservation to expression, from survival to meaning, from protection to freedom. This is why the scene resonates so deeply with audiences. Whether they realize it or not, people recognize the universal human struggle hidden within it. Everyone has something they fear losing. Everyone has dreams constrained by anxiety. Everyone has moments where safety conflicts with authenticity. Chigiri becomes powerful because he chooses authenticity, even if authenticity hurts, even if authenticity destroys him, even if authenticity ends everything. Speed as self-actualization. After his awakening, Chigiri's relationship with speed changes fundamentally. Before the injury, speed was a gift. After the awakening, speed becomes a choice. This distinction may seem subtle. It is not. Before his injury, Chigiri's identity rested on natural talent. He was special because he was born special. This is a fragile foundation. Anything given can be taken away. Anything biological can disappear. After his awakening, speed acquires existential meaning. Now every sprint represents a conscious act of self-expression. He is no longer running because he is fast. He is running because running embodies who he chooses to be. Psychologist Abraham Maslow described self-actualization as the realization of one's fullest potential. Most people misunderstand this concept. Self-actualization is not comfort. It is not happiness. It is not success. It is becoming fully yourself. For Chigiri, speed is self-actualization. When he runs freely, he experiences psychological alignment. His actions match his identity. His desires match his behavior. His dream matches his reality. For the first time since his injury, he becomes whole again. Not because the fear vanished, but because fear no longer controls him. Why Chigiri's ego is different. Most Blue Lock players possess aggressive egos. Their psychology revolves around domination, victory, recognition, supremacy. Consider Shoei Baro. His ego centers around control. He wants to rule the field. Consider Rin Itoshi. His ego centers around destruction. He wants to overwhelm everyone. Consider Isagi. His ego centers around adaptation. He wants to evolve continuously. Chigiri is different. His ego centers around freedom. This makes him unique. His greatest enemy is not another player. It is limitation itself. His greatest fear is not defeat, it is confinement. His greatest desire is not domination, it is unrestricted expression. Every time Chigiri accelerates, he experiences liberation. Every defender left behind represents another chain broken. Every open field represents possibility. Every sprint becomes a declaration. I refuse to be imprisoned. This is why speed feels almost spiritual for him. Not merely athletic, not merely tactical, psychological, existential, even philosophical. Speed becomes his rebellion against mortality, against fear, against stagnation, against the fragile limitations of the human body itself. The radical acceptance of risk. Perhaps the most profound transformation in Chigiri's character is his acceptance of uncertainty. Modern psychology often emphasizes control, planning, preparation, risk reduction. But there are situations where control is impossible. Athletic careers are one example. No amount of preparation can eliminate uncertainty. No amount of caution can guarantee safety. Eventually, athletes must accept vulnerability. Chigiri reaches this point, and when he does, he adopts a mindset that borders on radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is the ability to fully acknowledge reality without fighting it. Reality says, your knee may fail. Reality says, your dream may end. Reality says, nothing is guaranteed. The old Chigiri resisted these truths. The new Chigiri embraces them. This acceptance creates psychological freedom, because once the worst possibility is acknowledged, it loses some of its power. Fear thrives in avoidance. Fear weakens in confrontation. The moment Chigiri accepts uncertainty, uncertainty stops controlling him. This is why his post-awakening confidence feels different from traditional sports protagonists. It is not optimism. It is not certainty. It is acceptance, a deeply mature form of confidence built upon reality rather than fantasy. The most important thing to understand about Hyoma Chigiri's awakening is that it is not a story about recovering from injury. It is a story about confronting mortality, about realizing that safety can become a prison, about understanding that protecting a dream can sometimes destroy it, and about accepting that meaning often requires risk. The old Chigiri wanted guarantees before he ran. The new Chigiri understands that guarantees never existed, so he runs anyway. And in doing so, he becomes something far more dangerous than a gifted athlete. He becomes a person who has accepted the price of his dream, a person who understands the risk, a person who sees the fear and chooses to move forward regardless. The golden cage of the chosen one. Prodigy trauma. The curse of natural genius. One of the greatest misconceptions about talent is that talent creates freedom. In reality, extraordinary talent often creates pressure. The more gifted an individual is, the less room they have to fail. This is one of the hidden psychological burdens carried by prodigies. Average performers are allowed mistakes. Average performers are allowed experimentation. Average performers are allowed uncertainty. Prodigies rarely receive that luxury. From the moment their gift becomes visible, expectations begin to form around them. Parents notice, coaches notice, teammates notice, opponents notice. Eventually, the prodigy notices too, and slowly, a dangerous belief begins taking shape. My value comes from my gift. This belief becomes the foundation of Hyoma Chigiri's early identity. Before the injury, before Blue Lock, before the fear, there was speed. Speed was not merely something he possessed. Speed became the lens through which the world perceived him. Every compliment reinforced it. Every victory reinforced it. Every success reinforced it. His uniqueness became inseparable from his physical ability. This creates what psychologists sometimes call conditional self-worth. Conditional self-worth occurs when an individual's sense of value becomes dependent upon specific achievements, traits, or performances. Instead of believing, I am valuable regardless of outcome, the person begins believing, I am valuable because of outcome. The difference appears small. The consequences are enormous. Because conditional self-worth creates fragility. If the source disappears, the identity collapses. For Chigiri, that source was speed, and speed exists within the body, a body that can be injured, a body that can age, a body that can fail. The moment his ACL tears, the psychological foundation supporting his self-worth begins to crack, not because he stopped being valuable, but because he never learned how to separate his value from his talent. This is the hidden tragedy of many gifted individuals. They become experts at performing, but never learn how to exist without performance. Imagine spending your entire life being told you are special. At first, this sounds wonderful. Most people desire recognition. Most people want validation. Most people dream of standing out. But what happens when standing out becomes mandatory? What happens when being exceptional stops being a privilege and starts becoming an obligation? This is where the concept of the golden cage emerges. A golden cage is still a cage. The bars may be beautiful. They may even appear desirable, but they still restrict movement. Chigiri's talent creates exactly this situation. His speed gives him opportunities, recognition, status, admiration, but it also traps him, because once everyone expects greatness, mediocrity becomes terrifying, failure becomes terrifying, ordinariness becomes terrifying. The gifted child slowly becomes dependent upon being gifted, and when that identity becomes threatened, panic follows. Many viewers interpret Chigiri's fear as fear of re-injury. That is only partially true. The deeper fear lies elsewhere. The deeper fear is becoming ordinary, because ordinary means losing distinction. Ordinary means losing uniqueness. Ordinary means becoming replaceable. This fear appears throughout Blue Lock repeatedly. The facility itself is built upon the terror of irrelevance, but Chigiri experiences this fear differently. For Isagi, greatness is something to achieve. For Chigiri, greatness is something he already possessed and might lose. Psychologically, losing status often feels worse than never having it. This phenomenon is supported by behavioral economics. Humans experience losses more intensely than equivalent gains. Losing $100 hurts more than gaining $100 feels good. Similarly, losing a gifted identity hurts more than gaining one feels rewarding. Chigiri is not chasing greatness. He is desperately trying not to lose it, and that distinction shapes every aspect of his psychology. Fixed mindset versus growth mindset. One of the most important transformations in Chigiri's character can be understood through the work of psychologist Carol Dweck. Dweck's research introduced the concepts of fixed mindset and growth mindset. A fixed mindset assumes abilities are static. A growth mindset assumes abilities can evolve. Before his awakening, Chigiri operates primarily through a fixed mindset, not because he lacks intelligence, not because he lacks ambition, but because his identity has always been tied to innate talent. His internal narrative looks something like this: I am fast. If I lose my speed, I lose myself. My value depends on preserving what I was born with. Notice the problem. The focus is preservation, not development, protection, not evolution. The injury intensifies this mindset. Instead of asking, how can I continue growing, he begins asking, how can I avoid losing what remains? Fear transforms potential into maintenance, and maintenance eventually becomes stagnation. Then Blue Lock forces a psychological shift. After his awakening, Chigiri's mindset changes dramatically. Now his internal narrative becomes, my speed may disappear, my body may fail, my future may be uncertain, but I will continue running anyway. This represents genuine growth mindset thinking, not because he suddenly believes success is guaranteed, but because he accepts uncertainty as part of growth. His identity no longer depends on preserving perfection. Instead, it depends on pursuing potential. And this change makes him psychologically stronger than he was before the injury. Ironically, the thing that nearly destroyed him becomes the catalyst for maturity. Why the princess nickname matters. One of the most overlooked aspects of Chigiri's character is his relationship with appearance. The Blue Lock players frequently refer to him as Princess. On the surface, this nickname seems comedic. His long hair, his delicate features, his elegant demeanor, everything contrasts sharply with the aggressive masculinity surrounding him. Many viewers assume the nickname exists purely for humor. Psychologically, however, it serves a much deeper function. The nickname represents perception, and perception plays a critical role in identity formation. Throughout human history, people have made rapid judgments based upon appearance. We instinctively categorize others: strong, weak, dangerous, harmless, dominant, submissive. Chigiri understands this dynamic better than most. His appearance creates expectations. People assume softness, fragility, passivity, then he accelerates. Suddenly those assumptions shatter, the contrast creates shock, and shock creates advantage. But there is another layer, an even deeper psychological layer, because Chigiri does not reject the nickname, he accepts it. This is important. Many athletes become defensive when confronted with labels that challenge traditional masculinity. Chigiri does not. Why? Because his confidence no longer depends upon external validation. After confronting his fear, he becomes less concerned with fitting expectations. His identity stabilizes internally. The opinions of others lose influence. The nickname becomes powerless because he no longer treats it as an attack. Instead, he incorporates it into his self-concept, and psychologically, this demonstrates remarkable maturity. Hair, control, and trauma recovery, his grooming rituals. At first glance, his attention to his hair appears superficial, perhaps even vain, but trauma psychology suggests something deeper. One of the most common consequences of traumatic injury is loss of bodily trust. The body suddenly feels unpredictable, fragile, unreliable. The athlete experiences a profound loss of control. Recovery often involves rebuilding that sense of control, not necessarily through performance, but through routine, structure, predictability, control over small things. This is where Chigiri's appearance becomes psychologically significant. His hair is always maintained, organized, controlled, intentional. This may seem insignificant. It is not. Ritualistic behaviors frequently emerge after trauma because they create stability. When large aspects of life become uncertain, individuals often focus intensely on smaller domains they can control: hair, clothing, schedules, preparation. These behaviors create psychological grounding. For Chigiri, grooming becomes more than aesthetics. It becomes autonomy, a declaration that despite uncertainty, some aspects of his life remain under his authority. This explains why his appearance feels so deliberate. It is not vanity, it is self-regulation, a quiet method of restoring ownership over a body that once betrayed him. Beauty as a weapon. There is another psychological advantage hidden within Chigiri's appearance. People underestimate beautiful individuals in competitive environments, not always consciously, but often subconsciously. This phenomenon appears across numerous domains: sports, business, politics, competition. Humans frequently associate beauty with softness, gentleness, passivity. This bias creates opportunity, because reality often contradicts expectation. Chigiri embodies this contradiction perfectly. His appearance suggests elegance. His playstyle delivers brutality. His movements possess grace, but his intentions possess ruthless efficiency. When defenders face Chigiri, they often experience cognitive lag. Their expectations struggle to keep pace with reality. The mind expects one thing, the body witnesses another. This brief psychological hesitation can be decisive, particularly in a sport where milliseconds matter. Chigiri's appearance becomes a strategic asset, not because beauty directly improves performance, but because it manipulates perception, and perception shapes reaction. The princess becomes a predator. The elegance conceals danger. The softness conceals aggression. The contradiction itself becomes a weapon. Rebuilding an identity after collapse. Perhaps the most impressive aspect of Chigiri's development is not his speed, it is his ability to reconstruct himself. Identity collapse is one of the most painful experiences a human being can endure. When the core story defining a person falls apart, confusion follows, depression follows, fear follows. Many people never fully recover. They spend years attempting to reclaim a previous version of themselves, but Chigiri ultimately chooses a different path. Instead of restoring the old identity, he builds a new one. The old Chigiri believed, "I am special because I am fast." The new Chigiri believes, "I choose to run despite uncertainty." The difference is profound. The first identity depends on genetics. The second depends on values. The first depends on outcomes. The second depends on decisions. The first can be taken away. The second belongs entirely to him. This transformation represents genuine psychological resilience. Resilience is not returning to who you were. Resilience is adapting into someone capable of moving forward. Chigiri does not recover his old self. He transcends him. The frightened prodigy becomes something stronger, someone who understands loss, someone who understands fear, someone who understands fragility, and who runs anyway. The injury shattered the illusion that talent alone could define him. Blue Lock shattered the illusion that safety could protect him. And through that destruction, a new self emerged. A self no longer dependent upon perfection. A self no longer imprisoned by expectations. A self willing to gamble everything for authenticity. Because the true lesson of Chigiri's journey is not that gifted people should trust their talent. It is that gifted people must learn who they are beyond their talent. Only then can they truly become free. From survivor to predator. The second birth of Hayoma Chigiri. Most character analyses treat Chigiri's awakening against Team W as the conclusion of his psychological journey. In reality, it is only the beginning. The sprint that liberated him from fear was not the destination. It was the first step into an entirely new psychological existence. Because overcoming trauma and building a new identity are not the same thing. The first challenge is escape. The second challenge is construction. Once Chigiri breaks free from the paralysis caused by his injury, a new question emerges. Who will he become now? This question is more complicated than it appears. The old Chigiri was defined by giftedness. Then he became defined by fear. Now both identities have collapsed. A vacuum exists, and vacuums do not remain empty forever. Something new inevitably takes their place. What emerges is one of the most fascinating transformations in Blue Lock. Chigiri gradually shifts from survivor psychology to predator psychology. This change is subtle, but it fundamentally alters how he approaches football. Before his awakening, every action was defensive. Every decision centered around avoiding loss, avoiding injury, avoiding disappointment, avoiding risk. His mentality was reactive. The world acted upon him. After his awakening, this reverses. Now he begins acting upon the world. Instead of avoiding danger, he creates it. Instead of reacting to opponents, opponents react to him. Instead of fearing consequences, he forces others to fear his presence. This transformation represents one of Blue Lock's central themes. The difference between surviving and imposing. The difference between existing and dominating. And Chigiri gradually learns how to become the latter. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like and subscribe.